My guest today is your Superintendent, Todd Bowling. Todd, welcome to SuperChat.
Thanks, Gary. Always excited to have our talk and let our public and our community know what's going on in Northwest local schools.
I hear you. We cover some really interesting points here on every single show. I think it's a great pipeline of information. Well, Northwest has been holding a summer literacy program. So tell me about this program you have been providing.
The summer literacy program evolved out of wanting to practice what in-person school would look like in the fall. We also wanted to get a look at where our kids are. And since we were removed from school basically for April and May last year, to try to get a read on where the students were and what type of educational changes we need to make in order for them to be successful. So what we did is we identified over 100 students, of which 95 attended in grades 2 through 3, and tried to put together everything that would look like in-person school. So students did ride the bus. Students were required to wear a mask on the bus or at school. If they forgot their mask at the bus stop, or if their parents dropped them off and they forgot, we did supply the mask for them. We wanted to practice serving breakfast and lunch. Our ideal was 12 to 15 per class. Classes would be set up at 6 feet apart. We identified certain times that when masks could be removed. We basically wanted our teachers to get the experience of what's it like teaching with a mask, what's it like teaching with a shield, what are the different combinations of things that would happen. And we found out some things that were not very successful. Even with these small numbers and those 95 students, we had them at 3 elementary schools. A little thing like temperature checks to line them up at the door and do temperature checks and hand washing with them was effective and was great safety protocol, but it's not doable with large numbers. You would have to allow them to go to their homerooms or classroom to start the day and then do the temperature checks there. So found out a lot of good things about what we need to look at, what we need to change. Our teachers who are part of this literacy program journaled each day and gave us valuable feedback.
Overall, what would you say has been the response and reaction from parents, students, and teachers?
Yeah, I'll start with the parents. We did have a couple students who we identified as being ill or symptomatic, sent them to an isolation room. They came back to school the next day after getting a release from the doctor. So the very first fear folks are going to have is, what is the symptom? And right now, the symptoms are all over the place with COVID. Sometimes it's a fever, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the kids are asymptomatic and show no symptoms whatsoever. So it's just trying to keep your eyes on that piece. Staff was very pleased, said the students were very glad to be back. Some of them said, we will absolutely not take our mask off or our shields while they're eating lunch, because that is the one time they are exposed because their masks do have to come off as kids. And then some allowed them to take them off in their classroom when they were 6 feet apart, and some did not. And some of the feedback we got is the kids were excited to be back. The kids did not have issues with wearing their mask, but that's not to say all. Every now and then, a couple would start playing with it because they get fidgety or they're just kids. Some of the kids would remove them, but overall, very great experience. We have 1 day left tomorrow, and we've got valuable information to give to the rest of our staff.
Has there been anything, standout or particular that you've drawn from this remedial learning experience?
The biggest thing is kids need to be back in school, but I fully understand with parents' decisions to choose remote learning. And why I say they need to be back in school is the routines that are established. When kids are in school, they're getting up at a certain time, they're going through their physical day, and easier to maintain bedtimes for a parent or at the household. It gives them social interaction. It gives us the ability to work with them socially, emotionally. What needs do they have? Things that doing remotely we can't always see or help them out with. It also allows us to start remediating what might be lost, or if nothing was lost, how do we enrich and move the kids further? We had to turn to remote learning in 24 hours or less last time. We've now had time to rethink it, what's better ways to do it, but we are very proud of the fact that we know safety is our number one priority for our staff and our students, and that we can maintain 6 feet spacing and make good things happen while at school.
Would you say that compared to the reactionary mode that you were forced to be in last March in implementing remote learning, that now with remote learning, it's much more robust? You've had time to put it all together in a more organized way, if I may put it that way?
Yeah, the best thing about having the summer off is the chance to reflect, not only for our staff, our administration, everyone, to reflect what went well and what did not go well. The equity piece is the big key for me. There is not equity in delivering remote learning. Some students have the support at home they need to get help in math, reading, science, and social studies, and their special areas, art, music, and PE. Other students did not. About 20 to 30% of our students didn't do a whole lot. At least if we can get them to school, we can stay on top of their learning. We will continue to provide a Chromebook for every kid in our district. They will go home. They will come to school. If they're on remote learning, they will use them there. But you also have the Wi-Fi and the connection piece, and that's not equitable. At least if we can provide a circumstance where the kids can come back to school, the equity piece is really put on an even playing level. And that's why we've had the big push to, one, try this literacy program to see how things go. And then two, August 27th, bring our kids back to school who choose to come back to school and their parents.
Sure. Let me change my focus a little bit here, Todd. As you begin the new school year, with all of the restrictions and precautionary rules in place because of this virus thing, I just have to ask you, how do you plan to handle extracurricular and after-school activities?
Yeah, great question. And I wish I had an exact answer. So extracurriculars comes in a wide variety. You could look at the athletic piece, and then you have the music department. And right now, we are leaning heavily on Ohio High School Athletic Association for guidance, but also our Hamilton County Health Commissioner, Greg Kesterman. And right now, music is a problem. With the amount of bodily fluids that go into playing an instrument, and are they dispersed through the end of the instrument, singing, obviously, and they've given us good guidelines. They've talked about if you're going to play 10 feet apart is safer than 6. Right now, to have the expectation that our marching bands will compete this fall, it will not happen. Ohio has canceled those competitions for marching band and singing groups. So right now that's been taken off the table. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody of is that since June 1st, Ohio has allowed AAU basketball, some football to occur. And our coaches and athletic directors at both of our high schools have done an excellent job of tracking. And we have had COVID show up. We've had situations where a parent gets it of an athlete, and we've had a situation where an athlete gets it. And both times we've gotten contact with the Hamilton County Health Commissioner. We've done the contact tracing, and because our coaches worked well with seating charts or who were in small groups, we did not have to stop an entire team from participating. So, for example, at one of our high schools, football had a COVID case, so only 20 to 25 kids were put out because of proper grouping, tracing what their contact was during the day, and being able to answer the tracing questions from Hamilton County. So as we look at extracurriculars, it becomes very difficult. Ohio High School right now is allowing contact sports to occur, and that being football, soccer, lacrosse to occur, but only have inter-squad scrimmages. So that means they cannot go out and scrimmage against another school in another district, that they must stay internal. And we're waiting till August 24th or 27th, right around there, to get a final answer on what that can be. But our other sports that are non-contact, and cross-country was just changed to a non-contact sport, like volleyball, golf, tennis, those are being allowed to go forward. So very interesting time, but good that we can get back to some normalcy for our kids.
Yeah. All summer long, almost, I would say probably every school district I have spoken with has been diligently at work creating a detailed reopening plan for their schools. You have released the plan for Northwest local schools. Tell me a little bit about the highlights of the plan, what it offers to families.
It's an ever-evolving plan. We have released it so we could get feedback and input from not only our staff, but also our parents and any students that have had sent information in. But What we are trying to do is to follow the reopening guidelines that the governor has released, and also making sure that anything we do goes through Hamilton County. So we have made plans to wear masks for adults and students. If a student comes to a bus stop and forgets their mask, the driver will supply them a mask. If a parent drops a kid off at school and they don't have a mask, we will supply them a mask. The mask must be worn during the day unless there is a doctor's note that excuses the child or the staff member from wearing it. And then we have to make accommodations and adaptations to how that day will look for that student and that staff member. Because again, our number one priority is safety of our staff and students. Along with that, we are working on each level cohorting. And what cohorting means is that when kids report to school, we are working to see what we can do to make sure that the children are not interchanging between each other, that a staff member is only seeing a small portion of the students during the day. What we did learn from remote learning last year is we can provide content on Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom, so on and so forth. We can reach out to our kids. We can provide quality lessons, and we can make things happen. Like I said, July 2nd is when the governor released his reopening guidelines, and it's now August, and we're still looking at changes and adaptations because CDC came out with their guidelines. So they came out with 3 guidelines. A low risk is students stay at home and do remote learning. A moderate risk is students come to school, work with cohorting type atmospheres, which means they do not change bells. They come to school and get the support they need. And then high risk is when students do change bells and there is no cohorting. So obviously, by choosing to go to school, we don't want to be high risk. And by choosing to go to school, that takes us out of the low risk. But what I like about the decisions that our district has made is we did survey our parents. The governor's number one requirement was to work with your community. And so we are working with our community because our community requested that they have the opportunity to go to school. Our community also requested that if they choose not to, that they can do remote learning. So we have given the availability of both. And we understand that more and more information is coming out and that parents are changing their minds. And we are allowing that at this time because we are trying to do what's best for our staff safety, our student safety, and then meet the parent needs.
Yeah. You know, I hate to use the word because I know that it's used heavily in the educational field to describe this whole period of time, but everything about it is fluid. It changes every day, every week. I mean, you just do your best at any given moment. But hopefully the year can go smoothly without interruption and with a minimal amount of problem whatsoever. And we can hope for the best, can't we?
Yeah, we can. And what we've tried to explain to our administrators is flexibility, because you never know which day your county might change colors. And getting people to understand that when they do change colors, it's an advisory. It's not written in stone. It's an advisory that there's high risk. But sometimes in the counties, you've changed colors because you might have a retirement center that's had 30 to 40 people test positive. So it's watching our public, watching where our kids live, working with our health commissioners to make sure we're doing what's best for our community and trying to collaborate as much as possible. But flexibility is the key for the year.
Well, Todd, this conversation has been quite informative once again. All said, you know, my hope is that everyone involved with Northwest Local has a smooth year and certainly no shutdowns. That would be wonderful. Good program today, Todd. I want to thank you for joining me once again here on SuperChat.
Thanks, Gary. Always appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and then disseminate information out to our community. So thanks for everything.